What's up, gang? Rain here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're already subscribed, I appreciate you very much. Thanks for coming back during this dry period of content. I mentioned this in a couple other forms of social media and through like a post on YouTube recently that 6 weeks between races doesn't really provide a lot of opportunity to make content, not for the sprint car anyway. And you're just kind of going through some personal stuff, so motivation's a little bit hard to come by at the moment. I put up some polls recently with some titles for some videos, curious as to what people would want to see. The first and most popular one by a bit of a landslide was the iRacing versus real life discussion, which I had with Gavin Ropchan, and that video flopped. It flopped real hard. Even the GoPro footage from the sprint car heats didn't do particularly well. So if there's some that you all want to see that I can maybe provide that doesn't require me physically being in the car, then yell out, because I'm all ears. So now the second most popular title that I put out was the running cost for our first show. So I figured while we've still got about 4 weeks until we get in the car again, trying to fill the gaps. I do plan on getting on iRacing again a little bit now that the festive season is in progress / on its tail end. Christmas was yesterday, so we got New Year's coming up, but there's a bunch of shows at the Motorplex which I'm super stoked to get to. The next one that was in line was the running cost for our first show. So I've got my notepad here. I've gone through the receipts that I've kept. I've gone through my bank statements and my memory, just trying to recap all of my spending for that first show that we ran. And I think for people who maybe watched the cost breakdown video for how I got into the sprint car, if you're continuing watching from that, then you're going to find this. It's not super in depth, not because there wasn't that much to consider, but I think if you're following this channel or this journey because of you're curious as to if you could maybe do this yourself at some point, if it was cost effective enough, this could be of a lot of interest to you. And the reason I say that is because even I was blown away at how little it cost me to run the car for a show. Now, there's a lot of things to keep in mind, when I say that. A lot of that was brought on by good fortune and luck and the generosity of others. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I won't give you a number right now, because that's the whole point of this video, is to break it down and give you a cost at the end. But this space over here, there's going to be a breakdown of everything. So I'll list everything. We're going to go through the things that I had to sort of buy to make sure that I was ready to have the car reset the way that Cameron reset it. To tweak some things, what was donated to us, what was given to us, and what made it cost as little as it did to run it for that show. So I've got everything written down here. As mentioned, this space is going to be the breakdown over here. There's probably going to be 2 parts to this. It'll be the prep and what it cost me to get everything ready, what it cost me, and probably what it should have cost, if I can figure that out too. My brain doesn't register numbers very well, but I'll do what I can, so let's get stuck into it. Alright gang, so we'll get into the prep for the show first. Now, nothing really had to be changed that much for the car between the practice that we ran and the show that we ended up running. Cameron absolutely made changes, but he was not only able to donate some things to make that happen for us, or I already had it and just wasn't able to change it myself. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So Cameron was extremely communicative with me in the weeks leading up to the show and even since. We kind of worked out a bit of a list of things that he wanted me to grab before we went out to the track on that December the 2nd, I'm pretty sure it was. So I'll go through that list now and kind of break everything down cost-wise. I only had to go to 3 different places, but so we went and got a bag of rags from Repco, some WD-40 and some spray bottles from Bunnings. Coating the car in WD-40 makes it easy to clean. The dirt doesn't stick to it as much. I went to Racing Tires in Maddington. I'm pretty sure that is. Yes, it is. It's Maddington. I went and got some proper earphones for my race saver, because I just grabbed some cheapies just to get through that practice on the first night, but they're not very. You can't just grab any ones, not with my helmet anyway. Very uncomfortable. So went and grabbed some proper earphones from Racing Tires and some stagger tape. Collectively, both of those things were $100. So there was about $92 for the earphones and $8 for the stagger tape. And just rewinding real quick, bag of rags was like $10. The bottle of WD-40 was $45 or so, and the spray bottles were less than $5. So $50 at Bunnings and $10 at Repco, and $100 at Racing Tires so far. Now, I went to RPM, which is a convenient 4-minute drive down the road from me here. Filled up 2 churns of methanol, which we actually were used from the practice, the previous one, but I'm going to include it in the running cost or the prep for the show that we ran. Picked up some gear oil, which it turns out I already had, but better too much than too little. A tub of grease and an angle finder. So those 4 things: 2 churns of methanol, gear oil, grease, and angle finder, was $215. So our prep for things that I needed, maybe not specifically for this show, but they were just collectively pulled into the operation, so I now have them handy. That was $375. So you could probably take out the 2 churns of methanol for that, so you could actually subtract about $80 from that, because that's more of a running cost than an operation, a grand scheme operation cost. Everything else is going to be able to be reused, used for a long period of time. It's not a one-off thing. Or so fuel, for example, you dump in the tank and it's gone within a few laps. So so the prep cost me about $375, which again, most of that is going to last long past this first show that we ran. So there's a little breakdown of the prep that we had to do before we went out to the track. Alright gang, now we're going to get into the actual running costs for the show itself. We're going to leave the prep out of this and just basically do what it cost me to run it on the night. So our nomination fee was $121.80. I'll just round that down to $121. So that got me my entry, 2 pit crew entries, and my trailer space in the pits in the Motorplex. So I spent about $20 on food and drinks for the crew, because I didn't want them to be thirsty and starving for when they're just giving all of their time to me. The least I could do is give them back some food and drinks. But no one got into the chips that I bought, so I mustn't be very good at pit snacks. If you have a good idea for pit snacks, then let me know, because definitely don't want the guys to starve while they're giving all of their time to me. So I do plan on going a little bit better on the food and drinks next time. I was in a bit of a rush and I didn't know what to get, so I just kind of I went with what worked, but no one seemed interested anyway. Maybe I picked some shitty flavors or something, who knows. Alright, we used 2 churns of methanol, which from RPM down the road, a 20-litre churn of methanol is $42. So we used about $84 worth of methanol. Actually we didn't use it all. There's about 2 churns worth of methanol, if not more, still sitting in the tank, because unfortunately we only made it 2 laps into the feature, so there's a lot of fuel still sitting in there. So, but we'll count it as an expense, because I have 2 empty churns sitting there, so that's an expense. Now here's the biggest cost for me for the whole show was my trailer hire, because I don't have a trailer. I have to hire one to move this thing every time I need to move the car. That was $140, and I had no other expenses past that, because we didn't go through any tires, and the tires that I do have were given to me by Ian, who sold me the car. So I have about 3 left and 4 right rears ready to be used at any given time. So I'm not going to need new tires unless they're fronts for the next 2 seasons at this rate, because the cars, the tracks that we get, they don't go through tires that much. So I'm going to get at least one more show out of that right rear, and I'm probably going to go the rest of the season on this left rear that's now on the car. So just another huge expense that I've managed to dodge based on the like luck and the just generosity of others. We didn't need to go. Well, I don't have any spares or replacements, but we didn't need them anyway, so that's just another cost that we didn't have to cover. And the total for the entire night was $365. And if you took the $140 that I spent on trailer hire out of that, you're looking at just over $200 to run this car for a whole show. There's obviously some room for error in there based on if you do decide to change something or need to change something or something like that. But for the most part, it was dirt cheap to run and hugely encouraging for like my future in this car, and hopefully the future for someone who might be watching this and trying to get into dirt racing themselves. Because if I can run this sprint car for just over $200 a night with a lot of luck and again generosity on my side, then I would like to think there's someone somewhere watching this going, holy shit, like I might be able to swing that, you know what I mean? It blew me away how little it cost us to run this for the actual night. I'll keep monitoring this just in case things go significantly upwards. I might do another video if we have a really expensive night for whatever reason. An expensive night for us is a crash, which I'm not even sure we could bounce back from. But we even received even more generosity, courtesy of Cameron, who sourced us a new right rear rod for the right rear, which stiffened up the right rear a little bit. And he also made us some setup blocks out of just some cut steel. So we just keep getting all this insane generosity from people, just helping me grow this operation ever so slightly each time. So hugely encouraging to be able to run the car for that little, and it makes me a lot more confident that I can run this for maybe a little bit longer than what I initially thought. My whole approach to this is that I'll be happy if I get 2 seasons in the car before I have to give it up. If it continues this way, maybe we could go for longer, or maybe there's a strong possibility there'll come a time in that in the next couple of seasons where I decide that I want something kind of bigger for myself on a life scale, things like buying a house and stuff like that. That was basically it. I feel like I've covered damn near everything in this. It's not a massive breakdown because there wasn't massive amounts of things to be bought or changed or accounted for. So that's pretty much it, gang. I am gonna find this list of things that Cameron has given me to do between now and the next time that we run the car, because he saw some things with the car that definitely could be improved. So I'm gonna find that real quick. Just give me a minute. Alright guys, so here's the list of things that Cameron wants us to try at least and to do before we put the car on the track again. So he wants me to get the shocks dyno to see exactly what we're working with, because we're really not sure at this point. Trim the top wing tree. He wants to kind of change the angle a little bit, take a little bit off it, so it kind of runs through the top wing a little bit smoother, because the way that he explained it to me is that the more the angle, it's a huge amount of horsepower gets taken away by every degree that the angle is. So he wants to I believe he wants to flatten it out a little bit. Drill out the bump spaces that are currently in the left rear shock. They're very, very tight around the rods, so they don't move a whole bunch. So he wants me to drill out the middle of those and free them up a little bit. Cameron actually bought us some FK bump rubbers for that exact reason, for the left rear shock. Add panel savers to the bonnet, source some more Zeus clips, source a fuel tank dipstick and a jiggler, because we plan on emptying the tank as it is, back into the fuel churns that are now empty, pouring one in, sticking the dummy stick in there, marking it at one churn, put the next one in there, mark it at another churn, mark it at another churn, so we can put it in there and know exactly how much fuel we're working with. Because if you're even a little bit familiar with sprint cars, you know that there's no fuel gauge in these cars. You have no idea what you're working with. You're doing an eye test or a dummy stick test. So fix the engine ignition harness. There's some loose stuff going on in there at the moment. Nothing nothing that affects the car. There's just some things that just go nowhere. So he wants to kind of tidy that up a little bit. Buy cable ties, clean the fuel system. He says normally do bars and torque ball. I think that means grease them up maybe, or clean them, I'm not sure. And we're going to change the engine oil and filter after the next show that we run. So and a torsion bar retainer for rear end as well. He's also under the impression that we don't need the right rear brake on the car either, so maybe we'll look at taking that off. Not something that I personally am brave enough to do on my own. Yeah, that's looking. I know this is not a super exciting video because, like, I know that the most views come from when I'm actually in the car, but we just don't have that opportunity right now. I do plan on maybe getting into a practice before our next show. I really want to get into practice before our next show because I know that laps is how you improve, and you know, 6 weeks between shows is not going to help us get any quicker. So just need to be, you know, a little bit more enthused about getting back on the track, because the issue that we face, a big issue that we face, is we basically have 2 opportunities to get in the car: practice nights and our race nights. Unfortunately, the practice nights are in the middle of the week, and like if there's a practice on the Motorplex, then it's just hard to get hands on deck, because you know the gates open at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and practice starts at 6. I'm lucky because my job finishes so early in the afternoon. I could be here and ready to load the car up at 3:30 in the afternoon, but it's a lot to ask of my friends, like, you know, who are also my crew, to try and do that as well when they've got, like, you know, 8 to 4s or 9 to 5s or something like that, you know. So practices aren't always in the cards, and then you're keeping the guys there at the track until 10 o'clock at night, you know, while we load the car back up and talk shit for a while, and then bringing it back to the house, unloading it again. It's a lot to ask you guys, like, in the middle of the week, you know what I mean? And then, like I mentioned, like, there's such huge gaps between our shows. There won't be another 6-week gap for the rest of the season, but this one has been really freaking, like, it feels like a freaking eternity. It feels like we raced 2 months ago, but it was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe at this point. Yeah, look, there's not a lot of opportunities to get in the car right now because I'm not running with the 360s. Because we're not allowed to run with the limiteds, because I believe it has something to do with the fact the limiteds are carbureted engines and ours are injected. And we can run with the 360s if we want to, but you know, it's my second time in the car and I have no business being on the same track as guys like Callum and Ryan Lancaster and all the other, and like, you know, Chris Coyle and all that kind of stuff, who run the 360s as well as the 410s. I just have no business on their track at this point in time. So yeah, gang, look, again, I'll say this again, if you have any suggestions for what you want, like, you know, out of this channel, I'm all ears, and if I find the motivation, I'll definitely do it. I'm getting back into iRacing soon, hopefully, just got to find the motivation. And we're still trying to figure out the mystery of what's causing that noise in the rear end of the car. So it doesn't sound super bad, it's just I'd like to know where it's coming from. So, alright, gang, yeah, look, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you are, a big help is when you like the video. It helps, all those things help push, like, you know, the channel into other people's feeds. So if you wouldn't mind doing that for us, that'd be really cool. And yeah, subscribe if you wanna keep up with the journey. So thanks for checking it out. Appreciate it. Till next time. Bye for now.